So I got to watch the whole season of MODOK Season 1 on Hulu. And while I'm not going to go into too much detail about MODOK the character himself, because I did a previous video about him when he was basically revealed as the villain for the Marvel Avengers game on PS5. I'll post that link below and a card up above. So in saying that, this version of MODOK is very different from the comic books, from any type of previous cartoon iterations, and from the video game. This is not the same MODOK that you've probably been used to in those iterations. So what is the point of the show? So I think the whole point of the show is basically to highlight more of the arrogant, egotistical, pompous, while being smart sides of MODOK, and then throwing in a fictional family for him to have that basically makes it the MODOK show, which is basically what this is. So he's MODOK with a family, and he has a job, which is him working at AIM, or AIM 2, whatever you want to call it, and him interacting with various other villains and characters in the Marvel Universe, and just kind of, you know, letting us know what MODOK would do in certain situations. As far as the voice cast go, it has a number of people that I think are really cool that have been in, a lot of these people I feel like have been in, like, you know, because of Seth Green doing Robot Chicken, which this show has that same animation style. These characters have kind of come up previously as voice actors before. So we have Patton Oswalt as front and center as MODOK, which I thoroughly enjoy hearing his voice, and I think he's a perfect fit for MODOK. We have Winnie McLendon-Covey, which is, I know her from Reno 911, and she's also in the Goldbergs, and she voices Mona Rapacini. We also have one of my favorites, Ben Schwartz. You probably know him from Sonic the Hedgehog and also from Parks and Recreation as John Ralphio. And I love him as Lou. I think he does a really good job. He's basically, in my mind, John Ralphio in a kid's body. And I love it, and I want more of it. There's also some supporting cast I think is worth mentioning. Beck Bennett as basically the version of Google, you know, the guy in charge of Google. He is a good character, and I really like his I mean, if you've watched SNL with Beck Bennett, then you know that he is very multidimensional as far as the characters he can portray and mimic. So for him to do a character like this and hear his voice, very refreshing. We also have John Hamm playing Iron Man. We have even Whoopi Goldberg playing one of the lesser known villains. We have Nathan Fillion, who's Wonder Man, and we even have Bill Hader, another SNL alum, playing, I believe, some characters and probably some other characters throughout the show. The show does a really good job of kind of introducing to you lesser known Marvel characters. I just wanted to kind of highlight a few of them. We have Super Adaptoid, which is basically the robot that is always looking for someone's approval, but is quick to throw you some shade when he's not happy with how you talk to him. He's a very different representation from what I was actually Googling him in the comics and just in his wiki. He is not that fragile of a character as he is in this show. So it was kind of different to see him in a very comical way, which is what the show is really good at, about making some of these Marvel characters very different from what we've known about them in comics and movies and cartoons, etc. We have Monica Rapacini, who is basically the super scientist. So I think MODOK is the supreme scientist, and she's like super scientist supreme or something like that. And she's basically a second command in AIM. And so she's very smart and can put stuff together and do some cool stuff. So she was a character I, again, was not very familiar with, but it was kind of cool to see her come in light and kind of be, you know, MODOK's sidekick and also kind of arch nemesis in the same way. Next one up is kind of like the main villain of the show. We have Hexis, the Living Corporation. I have never heard of this character, and they're basically just a character that takes over other corporations, which is kind of unique and different. And I don't think we've seen the last of them, other it's kind of been hinted that they might appear in, you know, maybe a sequel to the show of season 2. But they're a character that I would never expect to see, and kind of cool to see at the same time. We also had some other villains, including Arcade, which happens to be a main villain for the X-Men. And we also had the Leader, which is a character that frequents the X-Men, the Avengers, and other Marvel characters as well. So it was kind of cool to see those. Plus, we did get to see Mr. Sinister, which means that this version of MODOK does happen to recognize the X-Men universe, which is cool. So hopefully we'll get to see them in future seasons. So I kind of talked about it briefly, but this animation style is very Robot Chicken claymation. And I think that it does a really good job of using claymation and modern animation techniques, like just basic computer graphics. I think there's a lot of intricate detail that goes into the show that just amazes me. I don't know how much of it actually is regular hand claymation or if it's all just computer generated graphics, but I enjoyed it very much, and I thought it was very cool to see. If you're a fan of Robot Chicken, then this show is going to be right in your wheelhouse. So one of the main questions I was thinking to myself while watching this show is, will comic book fans like it? I think if you are aware that this show is basically just comedy, it's not taking itself too seriously. It very much is very meta. It's, you know, making fun of itself a lot, especially with the character MODOK. I think if you know that going in and you can just enjoy it for what it is, I think you're going to have a good time. I think it's going to be one more version of MODOK that you've never seen before that you'll want to see. And if you are a fan of the character in the comics, all the stuff that they reference, because they don't really give a whole lot of explanation, like his backstory, if you blink, you'll miss it. You know, there's stuff like that. So if you are a fan of MODOK and other characters that it references in the Marvel Universe, watching this show will just be a refreshing thing for you to watch, and you'll enjoy it very much. Should you watch it? If you are a comic book fan, of course you should watch it. If you're a Marvel fan, MODOK fan, you definitely should watch it. If you're new to comics, if you're new to MODOK, I think for you, at first, you'll be kind of lost, but if you just stick through it to the whole season, I think it will make sense to you. And I think for you, as a viewer who's not familiar with MODOK and maybe Marvel characters, you'll get more of the comedic family sitcom aspect of the show, what it's trying to do. Or if you're a fan of Robot Chicken, you'll of course enjoy it. I feel like this show would have been done really well on Adult Swim. I know it's on Hulu because it's Marvel with Disney, but I think this would fit really good into Adult Swim. It very much has that humor animation style to it, and I think the audience that watches that would watch this and hopefully are watching this. So if you're of any of those groups, I think you should definitely watch it. So overall, I enjoyed MODOK Season 1. I think that if you are able to get past, you know, if, like I said before, if you are coming with it at the aspect of this is going to be like a serious show, this isn't for you. But if you can appreciate it for what it is, you'll get to learn more about MODOK. He becomes more human in the show, which I think is really cool. He can be annoying at times, but it becomes very funny in the way they go about it. And it's kind of cool to see all the different Marvel characters they throw at it, which I think for me was probably the best part. I have some knowledge about MODOK, not to the extent of like the comic books, but I do have some familiarity with him. And I think to see him and all the interactions with the characters, and I was Googling on the side and kind of learning as I went, it was kind of fun. And I really enjoyed the voice cast. So I really hope this show gets picked up for a season 2. And the voice cast we have continues and grows. And yeah, if I had to give it a rating, I would give this show 4 out of 5 MODOKs. Let me know in the comments below my review. What do you think about MODOK Season 1? If you've watched it, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you have not seen it, why haven't you watched it yet? That's it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed, hit that like button. For ones like this one, make sure to subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you guys next time on The Mashup.